I'm proud to be here today to present SB583, which will add financial literacy as a high school graduation requirement. We've heard the chair's concerns and have worked with the committee on amendments for this bill, and we're prepared to accept them, and we thank them for their input and wisdom. SB 583 will further prepare our young adults to effectively and efficiently function in the adult world without copious amounts of debt. In parts of the state, including parts of my district, many young adults enter the college or the workforce with little or no financial skills. This has led to a heavily indebted population with negative impacts to our economy. Debt prolongs when people are able to purchase a home, and for some of that means delaying fulfilling life's choices such as marriage and children. For others, it means living paycheck to paycheck, even with a rewarding career. We want to prepare our students to learn and to avoid these pitfalls and hopefully avoid a large debt. According to a 2016 survey from the Council on Economic Education, research shows that requirements are the driver of economic and personal finance being taught in our schools. California, along with Alaska, Montana, and Wyoming, are the only states in the United States that don't require personal finance education as a part of the K-12 curriculum. The curriculum for financial literacy can already be found in the Education Code, and we plan to look there to shape the requirements for this course. SB 583 is an investment in our youth, and it's an investment in California. This bill is really unique because the idea came through my districts. There ought to be a law contest amongst high school students throughout the 28th district. We sought bill ideas that students would think would make California a better place. Our winner is here with us today. His name is Robert Ortega. Robert, if you'll just raise your hand so we can all see you, is here from Shadow Hills High School in Indio. He's not alone in his thinking that our youth are graduating and entering the adult world with a lack of knowledge of complex but important realities that are encountered in day-to-day life as adults. I would like to also welcome and introduce Mr. Cordell Thomas here to testify from the United Way, and I want to thank him for his support. If Mr. Thomas can testify.
Hi, my name is Cordell Thomas. I'm with the United Way of the Inland Valleys in Riverside County, California. I'm glad to be here. I want to start out with a specific statistic. I want to thank you, number one, for being here and listening to what we're doing. 25% of families making over $100,000 a year cannot come up with $400 for an emergency expense without going into debt or borrowing the money. That's reality. We've been in approximately 16 schools, high schools, around the Temecula-Murrieta area. We've also worked with college-level youth called a FIT Academy, Financial Independence Training. When we talk to our young people that have gone through our curriculum and our classes, they tell us that their home lives, they don't understand financial literacy. They may be a part of predatory lending. There are a vast wealth of challenges within family networks that have to do with financial literacy, misunderstandings. And it's when you get a chance to talk with these young people one-on-one, you get an understanding of what families are dealing with on an ongoing basis. We have been in 16 cumulative schools, high schools in the Temecula-Murrieta area. We've also worked with 60 foster young people over the past 2 years who've graduated our program. Those 45 that have finished and saved, cumulatively have saved $53,000, $52,000 to $53,000 in a 6-month savings practicum. They can do it with a knowledge of how money flows and how money works. We'll end with these two stories. Samaraya joined our program. She is a single mom that graduated the program. She ran into an expense that came up from a medical standpoint that their insurance didn't cover. But because she had saved and put money aside in an emergency account, she said at her graduation that she didn't have to go into collections. She had the funds necessary to pay off that sudden debt. I have a secondary story of a trafficked young lady. She was trafficked. She's a second-generation trafficking victim, but she has gone through our program. She took 2 years to finish, but when she finished, she succeeded on a level you wouldn't believe. She not only finished, she saved the highest amount of money for that practicum, $6,800 in 6 months. Not only saved, but she finished with passing her state exam to become a CNA. She now passed that. She got her driver's license. She bought her first car following the practicum requirements for buying a 2-year-old used would probably be better. and now has a full-time job and is succeeding in a powerful way. Those are two stories of how financial literacy as a part of our curriculum would be able to change lives. I thank you for your time, and I hope that, that I can answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Also here, Mr. Chair, is Kathy Washer from Lodi, if we can allow her to speak.
Thank you, Senator and committee. My name is Kathy Washer. I'm superintendent in Lodi Unified School District and also a board member for California Jumpstart, a nonprofit foundation that seeks to educate teachers and students on financial literacy. I'm here to give my support for literacy requirement at the high school level for two reasons. One, our children tell us they need it. We are engaged in the LCAP process for the past few years, and every time that we meet with a group of high school students, they always tell us the same thing. We can pass any advanced placement test you put in front of us, but we don't know how to handle a checking account. And that speaks volumes to the hole and the gaps that are in our curriculum. The children see the need and they want us to do something about it. An elective course at this point isn't covering it because not all students are able to take that. We find that children are looking to buy cars in the future. They're worried about paying for school. They're worried about how to get a job and what to do with their paychecks. Those are issues that they see in their immediate future. The second reason why I feel that this is important is what I hear from the business community. In working with our local business folks, what they say is that their new employees that are graduates of high school come to them not knowing anything about retirement plans, not knowing anything about how to choose a health plan benefit, not knowing how to manage their money. They see young people losing their home, their apartments, not being able to make the rent because they can't budget appropriately. So the students and our business community, the employers who are working with these young folks when they get a job, are all telling us that financial literacy is an important component of our educational program. And we do have a principal, high school principal here, Mr. Sandstrom also, who can speak to that.
If you could keep it brief, that'd be great.
Senator, all members of the committee, thank you. Echoing what Dr. Washer mentioned, as a high school principal, I can let you know that even though we have courses and the required courses like economics, the part on personal financial literacy is thin at best. They may learn global economics, macroeconomics, microeconomics on a national and global scale, but when they walk out the door, do they know anything about their own personal financial well-being and how they can go about things like renting an apartment, purchasing a car, what a lease is, how to start up retirement accounts? They have no clue what FICO score is. Many people don't even know what FICO means. So I'd like to share with you that, yes, the concept of personal financial literacy is something that our students desperately need. Again, we have students in AP economics classes. They can tell you about global economics, depressions, recessions, Lux laws, all sorts of things, but walking out the door, do they know what it takes to get a lease? How much it takes? Can they look at things like they need a first month's rent, last month's rent, and a safety deposit just to get an apartment or a place to live? They do not have that knowledge. They don't have those skills. Our students tell us they're in desperate need of that, and we need to be able to offer that to them. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm very proud to be the legal author of SB583, but the true author is Robert Ortega, and I hope we can give him a few minutes.
I'll be really short. It gave you most of the facts about it, but as a senior in high school, myself, including my counterparts, we are going out into the world blind. We are faced with many blind decisions regarding furthering our education, our housing, our transportation, and other living expenses. To be honest, even I'm bewildered by some FICO, stuff like that. That stuff is really important. Education, to me, is one of the most important things you can give a student. We cannot deprive our students of knowledge in any subject area, including financing. Thank you.
Thank you. Other folks want to speak in support? Raise give your name and affiliation.
Mr. Chair and members, Gerard Buda Sevilla with the California Credit Union League in support.
Thank you.
Lisa Wright, President and CEO of United Way of the Inland Valleys, and we're supportive of financial literacy for all high schoolers in California.
Thank you. Okay. You wanted to raise some opposition concerns? Yes.
Erica Hoffman on behalf of the California School Boards Association. We do appreciate the amendments that the author accepted today. I do need to wait to see the language before we remove our opposition, but I would raise kind of one issue. There have been a number of bills this year, last year, expect to see a few more, that talk about adding courses, adding coursework for students as graduation requirements. Ultimately, the question becomes, what is actually needed for students to graduate from high school? Which courses should they have? And frankly, CSBA, we do believe, let's have that conversation. It's been since 1983 since we changed graduation requirements in this state for students. Maybe it's time to relook at that. That will be an outstanding issue that my association, though, does remain concerned with a number of these bills. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Don't disagree. Thank you. Okay, questions, comments, thoughts from the committee? Yes, Senator Mendoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank the author for bringing this forward. Again, as a teacher, I appreciate the value of the subject matter that you're trying to prepare our students with. I do wholly believe that they need to have a little bit more instruction and more support as far as financial literacy is concerned. I have a young senators program, and it's a 10-month program, and 1 month we talk about financial literacy, which is actually coming up. And that's their biggest breakthrough. And a lot of the things we cover, they haven't covered, and they're like, wow. And we actually open up to the community and the parents, and they themselves are like, can we do this again? So I know there's a need and the value for it. So I commend you for your efforts. I appreciate you taking the amendments and look forward to working with you. And maybe at the appropriate time, you can have me as your co-author. So thank you. And at the appropriate time, I'd like to move the bill, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Senator Pan.
I just want to thank you, Senator Stone, for bringing this bill forward. And I've worked with in my own local United Way, and I'm glad to see the support for United Ways in terms of trying to be sure we promote financial literacy. That very practical aspect of how do you manage your finances, something that empowers families. So I think this is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes, Senator Welk.
Yeah, again, great bill. Commend you for it. I mean, I had a class in this when I was in high school. My kids didn't. I had to teach my kids these things because the schools didn't, which I was fine with. Just last weekend, my daughter and her husband moved out of our house after 14 months because of the debt that he accumulated, and he was born and raised in Alaska. So maybe that's why that happened, because he is a bright young man, but just made some mistakes earlier. So I think this is something that's much needed. Obviously, they're teaching it at the UC level. I mean, they've been able to save $175 million. So they're very proficient at it. But I think we should have our young people learn those same skills at the K-12 level.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Okay, the bill's been moved. Certainly do. I support the bill, and I do, however, agree that at some point we've got to have a broader discussion about all the graduation requirements. There are some concerns and problems associated with piecemeal work, but I do think that being able to incorporate this into what's already happening with economics, social science, with the amendments that we've taken, I appreciate your work on that. I think it brings it to a good place, and I support the bill. So the bill's been moved. Would you like to call the roll, please?
Item 10, SB583, the motion is due pass as amended to appropriations. Allen?
Aye.
Allen, aye. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Galgiani? Leyva? Mendoza? Aye. Mendoza, aye. Pan? Aye. Pan, aye. Vidak?
Aye.
Vidak, aye.
Okay, it's good to have Senator Vidak back in the committee, adding on to votes. So we will leave it open, though, for the couple other
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable members. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Stone.
Thank you for traveling such a long distance.